Guys, what you're going to have to do is tape down these wires straight to where the direction you want to go. So grab yourself a little bit of electrical tape, flatten out these wires as best you can so they're nice and neat. I'll start my electrical tape as close as I can to the standoff. This is temporary, it doesn't have to be permanent, so there we go. I'll do it like that and I'll wrap over. I have way too much electrical tape, so I'll just wrap it over like that, and I'll go ahead and I'll cut off the excess there with a super sharp knife. Oh my god. So go and do that around each one. These motor wires are nice. So I'm going to be wrapping these motor wires around here and then feeding them from the bottom. I'll show you what I'm doing as I go. So what you got to do now is feed the wires where you want them to go, face them from the bottom, and then snip them so we can put them through, or solder to the exterior is even easier, I think. Okay, so now we've done that, what you're going to have to do is go ahead and strip the ends of the wires, twist them and tin them. Be very careful now because they're at length. It's very important you twist the wires so the ends are not sticking out when you tin them. Now that's done, go ahead and tin those wires. If you notice, I'm not doing it over my flight controller or ESC. I'm doing it to the side, the tinning. I don't want this to splash. Make sure your tip is nice and clean, not too much solders on it as well. So what I'm going to do here is add some solder to the sides of these pads. Not so much that it's crazy. Like that. Now use your tweezers and pull each wire to the side where it should be. And carefully solder that on. If I use the pointer here, so the cables run from the motors, it's taped around behind the standoff here, nice and flat. They go under and then poke up like that onto the side. Then you solder each one to the side. Do it on this one to here, on each side, each motor. And as you can see, these are all now been trimmed to the right length, and it will look like this when it's finished and soldered on. So go ahead and strip, twist, tin, and then connect. Alright, so there you go. Just got to check, make sure that no connection is touching each other. Guys, we're going to cut the battery cables. I would cut them in line with sort of either the back of the motors. How can I do that? The back of the motors like that, that's probably where you want to cut them. In the middle, that's okay too, depending. I would cut them there. So Now what you're going to do now is strip back, probably like a double strip that you'd normally do, a fairly large one, because we're going to attach the capacitor and another cable to that one. Okay, cut the positive and negative for the cap wire the same length. The length I chose was 1.5 inches. Both ends will have to be stripped. You'll need to get some heat shrink ready to go around the cap. Now, two ends now need to be tinned. Okay, get your capacitor, and what you want to do is just trim off the capacitor length by, and then the two tin end we're going to solder on side by side. Then we're going to slide some heat shrink over the top and get that finished off. So I've got my trusty grips here. I'm going to put the cap in the grips and just run a little bit of solder up and down both sides. Okay, like that. The strip here with the two lines that look like a negative symbol are the negative sides, so I'm going to concentrate on the positive side here. Heat the wire up and add salt to okay, that looks good. Flip it over. Now we'll do the negative. Okay, heat shrink. You want to put the heat shrink over, down to the base. 2 bits of heat shrink. Okay, now I'm going to put a little sort of cone here of hot glue, because I've snapped it off there before. I don't want to make it too long with all this hot glue. I just want to put a dab there just to give it some support. Okay, I've got my two negatives here clamped together as best as I can. I'm going to add a bunch of solder there and lock it down, then another bit of heat shrink. Okay, I've cut 2 little bits of heat shrink like that, and what I'm going to do with those pieces of heat shrink is slide them over like that as a collar, heat them down, and then redo the solder joint there nice as I can. Alright, now just clean up, make sure that there's no hanging hairs of the wire. Make sure they're all nice and smooth like that, and then go ahead and heat them back up. Add some more solder. Okay, grab your XT30. I got an old battery lead one there. I just put that in there just to hold its shape, because it gets hot, the plastic melts a little bit. And then go ahead and tin each sides. I've just tinned one, so I'm just going to finish off the positive one here. Okay, we'll go ahead and install that onto the battery leads here. So positive, positive, negative, negative. So just going to put a bit of hot glue around here and hot glue around here now, just to give these guys a bit more strength, because I really don't want it to break off. So I just put a little Dob on each side. Okay, so I got a little bit of a heat shrink, cut that over. It's a big one from an ESC, so hopefully it will shrink down. Just leave it like that. Heat shrink. Heat it up. Okay, so I got another bit of heat shrink. So heat shrink here and heat shrink here. So I just put this over like so until I like where it is. And I don't want to go too long, so I don't want to make it too stiff, the cable. Okay, it's a tight fit, but go ahead and slide on the two TPU mounts on the side, down over through the top. As you can see, the diagonal hole's pointing down for like the antenna tube to stick in there for your RX. Now, there's two holes in the side here and here. You're going to have to use the really small screws like that, the plastic screws with a Phillips bit on the end. Screw through the side into the camera. Okay, adjust your camera angle. I use about a 45-degree angle generally, so that's about 45 degrees. If not, anyway, I can change it later by undoing these screws a bit and just sliding it a bit. Don't do these up too tight, just enough.